Hello, my name is Carlos Viola, and for my project, I chose to do my analysis on a game by Motion Twin called Dead Cells. So I'll just talk over some gameplay footage of the earlier levels, and I'll also discuss some of the mechanics and dynamics along the way. So every new playthrough starts off with a little cutscene of the main character spawning into the game world, and if we're standing over an item, we can use the button R to pick it up. So I'm just going to head over a little bit to the right, and I'm going to have to make one of the first major decisions of the game, and that's pretty much just choosing my starter weapon. So I'm just going to get these gauntlets and the shield. So the main goal of each level is just to find the exit, and in some cases the exit might be guarded by a boss, but most levels will just be filled with regular enemies that you can either fight or avoid. And enemies drop gold that you can use for buying things at the shop, or for opening some locked doors throughout the levels. You're pretty safe with starting fights with them at this stage of the game since they don't do that much damage, but in later levels you should be more selective with who you pick fights with, because some monsters have attacks that are hard to dodge and can pretty much kill the character in just a few hits. So this is one of those doors that you can unlock using some gold, and many of them have weapons or scrolls that you can use for boosting your stats. So each weapon has a stat, or in some cases multiple stats that it's associated with, and the more scrolls you have of that stat, the more damage you'll do with that weapon. So as you can see right here, each scroll also increases your health, but it's also good to note that your HP will increase by smaller amounts if you have more of a certain scroll. So in most runs, I still tend to upgrade the stat of my main weapon, just so I can do a decent amount of damage against all the enemies and bosses, but I still use some of the extra scrolls just to increase my overall health. So this is one of those hidden areas in the game that you can access using these things called runes, and many of them will just have extra weapons that you can pick up. In many of my playthroughs, I try to get at least 2 scrolls in this beginning area, and I try not to spend too much time here because I might miss out on the timed door on the other side of the exit. So in between levels, you get to go to this little area that doesn't have any enemies, and the timed door is also in this area, and you have to pretty much reach this door before a certain amount of time, but I try not to miss them because they do have extra gold and cells that I can use for upgrades, and also some pretty rare items. So this is the collector, and this is pretty much who you give most of your cells to, and you can use the cells to create any weapons from blueprints that you might have. In this zone, you can also reforge weapons so that they have different effects, or try to increase their overall level so that they do a little bit more damage. There's also this guy over here that gives out these things called mutations, and they're pretty much skills that allow you to do a bunch of different things. For example, some of them might increase the amount of damage you do to an enemy if you're closer to it. There's also another mutation that you can use to double the amount of ammo you can carry for things like bows. And there's even this special mutation that sort of gives you this extra life after dying. And I say sort of because it only gives you 25% of your maximum health back, but it can only be used once during a playthrough. This mutation is actually really important because the core mechanic of the game is the rule that sends the player all the way to the beginning if they die. So I'm going to show off this mechanic taking effect after my player's health reaches 0. And I get this little message saying I lost all the cells I had. So the game developers kind of encourage you to spend all your cells before entering the main level. And as you can see here, I also don't have any of my old weapons anymore. But the cool thing is that a lot of the old things that you unlocked still carry over. For instance, I bought this thing from the collector that lets me keep up to 15,000 gold from my previous run, and all the weapons I've unlocked in the shop will also still be there for purchase. I just want to give credit to the developers at Motion Twin Studios for creating such a cool game, because they found a way to make a game with a fairly short campaign a lot of fun to play, since you can win and lose in a lot of different ways, and losing can be very frustrating at times, but the rewards at the end are well worth it.